Stephen Robert Adams was born in 1943 in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. And he was born as the son of Nathan and Mary Adams, raised in parsonages in the New England area and in Indiana, as his father was a Nazarene pastor for more than 25 years. Steve and his brother Nate were singing on network radio before they were school age. And Adams even began studying music at the age of 7. That seems very early to me. By the time he was 13, he had felt the call of God to be a music writer, and he composed his first song while attending the Portsmouth, Rhode Island camp. And in 1960, he was the organist at his father's church, where his father pastored. And for 7 years, he became full-time minister of music in Xenia, Ohio, and it was there when he survived a devastating tornado in April 1974. He ran from his car after seeing the funnel cloud into a nearby furniture store and hid under a sofa that he had overturned. And it took him over an hour to slowly pull enough rubble out towards him to make a hole big enough to escape. He went back a couple of days later with his pastor and found that the National Guard had been digging for him and that everyone else in the store had been found dead. His pastor told him, God doesn't promise to take us out of the storm. He does promise he will be in the storms with us. Amen. As if that wasn't bad enough, in that same year, he had an allergic reaction to propane gas from a trailer, his trailer that it took his voice for the next 2 years, 2.5 years. He regained his voice one night while traveling as an accompanist with a gospel singer named Doug Oldham. The song, All Because of God's Amazing Grace, is found in your hymnal on 354, if you'd like to turn there. It's unique from a lot of the ones that I've shared with us in that the author is still with us. Some of these words are similar to the old familiar John Newton hymn, and I feel like Adams did just a great job describing God's grace. Ephesians 2:7 mentions the incomparable richness of his grace. And it's so amazing that there is nothing in the known universe to which we can compare the grace of God. That number again was 354, if you're looking. Steve said his favorite song is usually his most recent work, but because it reflects his current understanding and blessings. However, he says he does have a special fondness for such songs as All Because of God's Amazing Grace. But Steve says, the greatest song I will ever write is The Life I Lead. And I want the Lord to sing his song through me. Let us join together and let God sing through us this morning. Amazing grace, oh how sweet the sound that saved a poor sinner like me. Though once I was lost, yet now I'm found. Though I was blinded, now I see. And it's all because of God's amazing grace. Because on Calvary's mountain he took my place. And someday, some glorious morning, I shall see him face to face. All because of God's amazing grace. Through disappointment and danger too, through labors and sorrows we've come, but God's grace has guided safely through, and it will surely lead us home. And it's all because of God's amazing grace. mountain, he took my place. And someday, some glorious morning, I shall see him face to face, all because of God's amazing grace. Then with the ransomed around God's throne, we'll praise our Redeemer and King. We'll tell all his mercy, for sin did atone. Through countless ages his song we'll sing. It was all because of God's amazing grace. Because on Calvary's mountain he took my place. And someday, some glorious morning, I shall see him face to face, all because of God's amazing grace. And someday, some glorious morning, I shall see him face to face, all because of God's amazing